Facebook. And we are live, at least on YouTube. So, pardon, I'm wondering if we're having like one of those Mercury retrograde moments, sort of an aftermath of it. But welcome back to Crossroads of Cognizance. I am one half of this whole team. Dahlia Rose over here on the East Coast, holding down the fort, and riding the waves this week, last week, and today have been odd. Hey, Rin, and here I have with me.
I'm Katrina Rasbold on the West Side. I'm the owner of Crossroads Metaphysical Store, and that's in Shingle Springs, California. So Dahlia and I are going to be talking about some of the things that we're seeing in our stores. We spend a lot of time talking to people who are on all sorts of levels of their sacred journey, needing to know about different things they can do to create positive outcomes in their lives. And so we tend to just talk about what the trends are. What am I seeing? What is she seeing? What's popular this week? And a lot of times those are pretty congruent. So I'm excited to see. We honestly, this is interesting, you guys. We did not get to have our pre-chat show
Nope.
this time. So we're going in blind and we're really good at that. So you're going to have a great time. The thing is, we're all going to find out together what we're going to talk about today.
So, I know we did not get to have the the pre-show chat. However,
Mm-hmm.
we definitely have some interesting topics for you. In the meantime, I mean, we've got, we will be talking about last week, but in the meantime, we've got upcoming a full moon and
Yeah,
lunar
the eclipse.
eclipse, and
Mm-hmm.
folks, there's always questions about that. And so, if you do, even though that's the week ahead, on February 9th and February. Wow, God, what is happening? I have fast forward in time. Um, we are in November. That's November 19th. So if you have questions, what do I do with my crystals? What kinds of things can happen? Shoot those in the comments, and we'll let you know what our experiences have been or what our expertise is in. And I know on my side of things this week, I've been getting a lot of. I pulled from. I did pull this from my list, but it seems like it's harmonious with what people are going through this week. Folks trying to raise their vibration to a point where feeling the density of things, feeling the shifts and changes. I mean, I feel like this is the longest fall ever. Um, it's my favorite season, but it feels endless. Like I don't know where winter is, but it's kind of a slow pull into a new season, and I think it's bringing a little pain with it. And unfortunately, as we've talked about before, there's a lot of escapism when it comes to spirituality. And so I kind of wanted to re-engage with that awareness that we are here to feel. And if you're feeling it, you're doing the work. Like that's what people always say is, oh, you got to do the work, you got to do the work. And it's not the mantras, it's not the 4 a.m. meditation, it's not the ecstatic dance. It's the sobbing, the crying, the fetal position, the okay, well, I'm in it. I may not have all the answers, but what can I do at least for the next 5 minutes? Can I take this hour to hour? Can I expand that day to day? And then week to week, month to month, year to year, and so on and so forth. So that was something that I was seeing in my clients. Please wash it off of me, so to speak. Get it off, get it off, get it off. Um, and I know I found myself embroiled in quite a few emotions and energies, and I just had the greatest of support systems, and class with Katrina really pulled me through because it's such a great group of people that just
Oh man,
being
did we look
around
out or
them.
what?
I mean, I
They're incredible.
how else could it be organized that way except through the divine? So
Gotta agree with that.
whether they knew it as they were being themselves, and you, Katrina, as well, all the laughter, all the fun was definitely a support, and sometimes you need that. So if you are going through and you're like, oh, I've got to raise my vibration, realize that there is universal balance. You can't just be up here and expect nothing over here. There will be an equal and opposite about you.
Mhm.
What about you, Katrina, on the West Coast?
Some really similar themes of people wanting to understand why things happen as they do, wanting to make sense of things. And I was really moved when you were talking just now about the pain aspect of how if we're feeling it, we're doing it. And one of the things that really stuck with me that one of my mentors said is that, and they may have gotten it from someone else, I don't know, but they said you don't know how deep you are until you hit rock bottom.
Mm.
But when you hit rock bottom, stop digging because
That is
people
sage
start to
wisdom.
they start to flail around and create even more discord for themselves. It's almost like they're running to get out of a burning building, but they're running into walls and sofas. And
Oh, we're like the fly in the window.
yes, yes, exactly like that. In fact, when we came into work yesterday, there was a little dead bird right in front of our door. And I didn't know if it was an offering of some kind or he had flown into the window and just fallen over backwards or what. But yeah, that was kind of symbolic. But yes, we really don't know who we are until we have depths of despair. That shows us the shadow side of ourselves that we shy away from and don't really look at. And one of the ways that that comes into being, and I'm going to go back to the cusp theme here. With cusp, climbing up the spiral pathway, that's the spiritual path that Eric and I developed 25 years ago. Um, you plant in the spring, you harvest in the fall. So we make big intentions. We start our efforts in the springtime to make important life changes. We have a lot of magical uh, rituals and things like that that go along through the year to support what we're doing, in addition to our mundane efforts, so that by the time fall hits, we're getting the payoff from what we've done. And we've noticed the synchronicity of a lot of major benefits coming in fall, lots of big changes coming in fall with the people who follow cusp especially. But what happens when you don't get it? And that's what is really harrowing to people is we are promoting this as, hey, this shit really works.
Yeah.
It's really good. And so in all good faith, they plant this major life change. They work on it. They raise the energy with all the holidays in between. And then Samhain rolls around when the harvest is finished and they're in their garden and nothing grew. And they're saying, what happened? Why didn't I get that new job? Or why didn't I get that new relationship? Or, why did I not get to move out of state like I wanted to?
Mm.
And that takes a lot of counseling with people, even just on non cusp um, spell work, where they're wanting a particular thing to happen and they're putting all this energy into it. But for whatever reason, God and Goddess said no.
Yeah.
And what I bring to the board with that to talk to them is, you know, it might not be no, it might be not yet,
Mm.
or it might be not like this.
Right.
And so it's important that we take that time between Samhain and Yule to go back to the drawing board and be contemplative about, well, what was the exact wording that I used? And sometimes when I walk them back through that, they can see that it manifested, but in a totally different way than what they expected. So it's as though they planted beans and they went out in
Mm.
harvest and got this whole harvest of corn. It's still going to feed them. But what just happened? So I do think that when God and Goddess tell us no, sometimes it's because what we're manifesting is just not the right thing for us. We
Right.
think it is, and it's going to mess us up. I mean, when my first husband and I split up after 17 years in 1996, I was so devastated, and nothing was going to please me except that he come back to our family, invest again, and be there with us. That was my singular goal for 1996. And I just kept hitting roadblocks everywhere I went. No, this isn't going to happen. No, you can't have that. And I
Mm,
was devastated. I had a real crisis of faith over it. But then after he was gone and that it wasn't changing, I met Eric and recognized that this was my path. So sometimes it's a redirect, sometimes it's saying, wait for it, wait for it. We have something so much better planned. Don't be stupid. And sometimes it's just a matter of, hey, give us a little bit. I've had times that my harvest manifested 3 years later in a huge
absolutely.
way because it just wasn't time yet. But I kept banking that energy toward that positive outcome. So that's one thing I can say that has been kind of going on at the shop is just, hey, where's my harvest?
Well, and it's funny. I literally just talking about that part of the emotions and things was a harvest, looking for answers from seeds planted and planted in thought. And then when they came up, um, they did look different, but they were absolutely what was necessary. And it was a
Right.
whole day of emotions for me today, guys. So if I am slow
Oh,
moving or slow to the comments, that is why. And so I had that conversation very interestingly just before we hopped on with my partner. We were just both like, well, that didn't happen the way we thought it was going to. But we're both so overwhelmingly grateful for
mhm.
the experience, for the highs, the lows of it all. Um, and then in another conversation, I found myself talking to a person about they had mentioned that they were having a birthday or something and they wanted tips. And I was like, oh, what a great question. What do you do? And what do you do to manifest the most or the manifestation energies? And um, this was sort of the direction I was taking them in was, you can manifest all you want. You can plant but maybe go and get that, astrology reading or seek out your local bruja or your psychic to say, hey, what are the energies that I'm tapping into? And then, if they're like, oh, March is the month for you and
Mhm.
money, then you know what to plant in January, or so on and so forth. So I absolutely love, I'm going to admittedly, I have not read the Cusp book, but the concepts that you bring to the show are absolutely powerful. I recommend everybody, just like Rin, go and get that book because we need that so much to be in alignment with the year.
Yeah.
So,
And like I said, our wording is so important too, because for instance, we tend to have a lot of death around Samhain. And this year especially, there were lots of losses of pets and people and we're kind of numb to that after 2 years of people just dying and dying and dying.
yeah,
And you'll have people that come in saying, I was praying and praying that she would just be okay. And now she's dead. And I'm saying, and she's okay.
yeah,
What we
absolutely.
say is so vital. But it's just that we are an arrogant species and
Oh,
we believe that our impression of the interpretation of what we're saying is all there is.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that can give us such tunnel vision. I know, again, not making the show about me, but I definitely had tunnel vision in my circumstance. So you mentioned this this no that can happen from the divine. Do you have any tips for managing that? I mean, it's easy enough to say maybe like, okay, accept it, but I'm sure there's stages in between, right?
It's all of the stages of grief, acceptance, denial, all of that, anger, and
Lots of
but
anger.
lots of anger. But it also comes down to faith, because if
Mm,
you don't have sufficient faith in your higher power, you're not going to be able to manage this well. You're going to go into self deprecation. You're going to say, I must have not done anything right. I must have not been worthy for this to happen. I must have misstepped at some time. And there is this power in accepting that everything that happens is unfailingly for your benefit, that it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And even if it's something that um, you don't necessarily want to happen or isn't your desired outcome, if you approach that experience by saying, okay, what's in this for me? Let's go find out. And you go into an undesirable situation with a sense of excitement, then the power shifts and the energy shifts, and you're able to create outcomes you might not have been able to see before.
This
And
reminds
so
me of your. Oh,
I was
sorry.
just going to say that's one thing I suggest is just shift your perspective out of victimization and into, well, this must be something I needed to have happen.
This reminds me of your story with Eric and the jobs and the rotating jobs, and
Yeah.
you guys started going in with like, oh, okay,
Okay.
here's the next roller coaster, strap in,
Yep.
you know. So, yeah.
Yeah. So another thing that people can do when they're truly disappointed, when your fields are just barren, when you worked so hard and nothing came of it, is to this is the woo woo hokey of all times, but I always recommend going to the gratitude journal and writing down the things in your life that you're grateful for so you can stay seated in gratitude and look and see after you've had some processing time, how would what you wanted have impacted your life right here, right now? Because often when we plant something back in the spring, we can't accurately predict where we're going to be in October, November.
Mm,
And again, that goes back to the idea of sometimes it's not no, it's just not right now. And
right,
who knows, maybe you planted carrots and that's a winter crop and something comes up later in the year. So it's just a matter of don't dismay, don't believe you've just been mismanaged in some way.
right.
Really look for the positive outcomes that could be.
And if you don't have that gratitude journal, it doesn't hurt to, tap on your community and see what comes of their comments of your change. I know on, I guess the day doesn't matter, but I'd seen a client recently I hadn't seen in 2 years. And she walked in and she was a whole different, I mean, head to toe different person, different set of problems, but had this go-getter, like, yeah, I can get through this kind of spirit about her. And I was like, when you first walked in here, you were kind of like sunken and like it was not good. I was worried. And now you're
Mhm.
coming in with all this presence and confidence. And I guess in that moment I felt like sort of a mirror to say, like, yeah, this is bad, but look where you came from. And that can be helpful too if you have that sort of, if you have those sort of friends or family members that can do that for you. And understood completely if you don't, but it made me think what an ideal tool in these circumstances a journal is, because you just flip back a couple pages.
Very, very true. And also, one of the values that we have, if we have good friends and people around us who are genuinely tuned into us and working almost in that Celestine prophecy way of coming together for a reason and working toward whatever that mission happens to be, is that there is value in being seen. And that was another theme that I had going on this week is people didn't just want to be loved, they want to be seen and heard. And I ran into this in a couple of different ways with different people in my community. One was a client, one was one of the people from my shop that had a falling out with an important working partner. And, no matter what she said, the working partner was so immersed in their own victimization
Mm.
that they couldn't hear anything. She had set a boundary. The person had a really big problem with her setting that boundary, was very offended that she set that boundary. She said it very gently. And she could never get to the place where she felt heard of this isn't personal. This isn't about you. I needed to share with you that this made me uncomfortable
Mm.
for that not to happen again. and it just really went sideways.
Wow.
So, it's sad when we are close with someone and we get locked into our own experience and our own narrative to the point that they just feel like that they're not heard or seen anymore. And that's when valuable people walk away.
Absolutely. There's something of that echoing into um, conversations that are had about personal boundaries, like when someone gets too close, and you're infringed upon in that way. And um, this was actually a conversation of 2 weeks ago where I'm sitting with somebody and talking to them, and they're like, "Well, I was friendly, and well, I mean, I don't think I led them on or anything, or led them to believe that touching my arm was okay, but." Man, I was fine in the moment, but I was angry after. And it's like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
because your boundary got crossed. Doesn't matter if it was innocent,
Mm-hmm.
but you made it a point to move away before the arm touch happened, and they moved closer.
Mm-hmm.
So you now are moving through those stages of grieving the part of you that didn't stand up for yourself.
Setting boundaries is so hard for everybody involved because you wouldn't need to set boundaries if you were not having boundaries already being encroached upon.
Right.
And so we set boundaries because something is happening that's uncomfortable to us, and we need to establish a standard that says, hey, this might be how you act with other people, but this doesn't work for me. And people do not like to have their behavior tailored in any way. That's when you start getting, told what a snowflake you are, or that, why are you being such a princess? Why,
Too
or,
sensitive.
I can't be myself around you. I can't really be who I am because this makes you so uncomfortable. And yeah, if you want to, you know, if you want to go on this ride, you got to be this tall. You know, if you want to hang out with me, these are the rules for being in my space. And if you can't hang with that, I am okay with
Yeah.
you going away.
Right. And how
Yeah.
about it's not about you?
And it's
It's if
not.
the boundaries are set, like Katrina said, they're
If
personal.
you have different neurodivergent people who are saying, hey, I am not comfortable with other people touching me, or when you say the word moist, it makes me feel freaky. I don't like that. Then if you care about that person, say, thank you for telling me that, because I want you to be as comfortable as you can be around me. Not, oh, well, I'm a huggy person, so I guess what I want just doesn't matter. You got to pull back and honor those boundaries when they're set, and recognize if someone is setting a boundary with you, they're saying, I want to keep you in
Yes.
my world.
Right there. Yep.
You're
I
important
love
enough
you.
that I want you to be here. And if you can't honor this boundary, we're not going to be able to do that.
Right. It's the only thing that's going to make the connection thrive on all levels, personal, business, friendships, family. That attempt to teach somebody how to treat you and for them to learn is an immense act of love. I know we've said it before, but I
Mm-hmm.
can throw that out there again.
Oh, I can tell you a time I had a big fail on boundaries. Um, and I still often don't know what to do with the information I got from that experience because it was 25 years ago. And I had a friend that our relationship had gone into a very sexual place. And I really cared about him very much. And he came to me and said, listen, this is really hard for me to say, but I don't want to be sexual with you tomorrow anymore. And I need you to know that we are never going to be more than friends. That's
Okay.
not going to happen. I know that you have this idea that we're going to be together ultimately, that we're going to have this great, life with children and a spiritual practice and all of this, and it's not going to happen. So I need you to get comfortable with that so we can continue to be friends, because I know that's not going to happen. And it was really crushing to me, because I really had intense feelings. I had seen this whole future with this person unfold intuitively. I knew where we were going, and this person was just not interested at all in anything other than friendship. But I valued that person's friendship, and I didn't want them to go away. And so I went through my grieving stages, and I said, no, I want this. I'm good with this. We're going to do this. And then everything got weird and turned around, because a couple of months later, he got sent to Saudi Arabia. And while he was in Saudi Arabia, he called me and asked me to marry him. And then when he came back, we got married. And it was Eric. And we've been married for 25 years. So there was this whole boundary presentation that he very kindly and thoughtfully and emotionally made, that I accepted. And then we got married. It's just... So our entire marriage is built on a mind fuck. You all just need to know that, okay?
Oh, but you guys are my power couple. I love it.
Oh, he's my sweetheart. He's my sweetheart. We just had our our 24th wedding anniversary was Saturday, but we've been together 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, and Eric almost like totally shot that thing in the foot. I mean,
dude, that was almost his biggest boner ever, man.
Oh.
But no, it was just like, you're too old. You got all these kids. I'm only 20 years old, man. I can't do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
That wasn't the gods or goddess saying no. That was more probably just like the mental. I mean, he's a Scorpio, right? So he's trying to figure it out in the beginning. I need to know what all of this is right now.
Yeah. Well, and, also there was the part of me that was like, you know what? That makes perfect sense. If you came to me as a friend asking what you should do with this relationship, I would tell you to run. So that makes total sense. And so it wasn't as though it was irrational that he was doing this. It made complete sense.
So that brings us to an interesting part of our conversation, because one of the other things we were going to address, like I mentioned in the beginning, was what's happening with the moon. So on the 19th, we have a full moon and a lunar eclipse. And, eclipses can be kind of chaotic, just like that. I mean, there are periods of change, emotional waves, and, some folks will tell you not to even don't charge anything under this kind of energy, because you never know what you're going to get. Real Forrest Gump moment. Yeah. Box of chocolates.
Well, and with eclipses, you're going into the darkness. You're going into the shadow. And then you're coming out of the shadow. So it's this condensed experience. And doing shadow work during that time is really intense, because, again, you're going right into it hard. And the moon is about feeling, emotion, intuition. And it's the feminine side of us. So that gets eclipsed. That goes into the darkness, and then we pull out of it. But eclipses are also an excellent time to hide something you don't ever want, or hide something you don't ever want to be found.
Life hacks.
So a good exercise is, if you're monitoring the eclipse and you're in the moment of the eclipse, and this is actually one of the longest eclipses, lunar eclipses, that we will have for a very, very, very long time, and that we've had in a very, very, very long time. So if you're monitoring those hours, do a meditation where you are burying something in your brain, where you are digging and digging and digging, and you don't ever want to think of it again, and put it down in that hole and fill it up.
Okay. Yeah. So fear, doubt, frustration, all those obstacles that keep coming up. Go ahead and get in your meditation. Oh, wow. I never knew that. I only knew that it was just like a chaotic time.
Well, that's why it's chaotic, is because the shadow time is in power. And so it's almost like we open the closet on that door of anxiety, and that shadow self just has liberty to come out and play like mad. So everything that we are trying to not talk about suddenly just vomits out.
Oh
So no
man.
secrets unless you bury them yourself.
Wow. So, well, what an excellent exercise. 5 things you'd like to bury healthily. Do you I don't know if this is a question. Do they ever come back out next eclipse?
Sure,
How does that work?
they could, but most of the time when we do work like that, the idea is we're doing it um, for our benefit or better, whatever needs to happen. It's just a way of concealing. I'm a firm believer that all magic, any kind of magic, has an expiration date.
Ah, okay. Like Reiki.
Yep.
I mean, I see, and I'm not poo pooing anybody's stuff, but you got to recharge those things that you buy that say, Reiki imbued, Reiki powered. They don't last like that forever. Probably a couple months down the road, it's going to be, you know, shooting blanks for you.
Yep.
And you're going to be like,
And
why didn't work?
it is to some degree relevant to the strength of the Reiki practitioner who's doing it. It's kind of
Yeah.
like if you make candles. If you make candles with a weaker oil, the pitch isn't going to be there as long. But if you make candles with a quality farm grade, super intense essential oil, that smell is going to last longer. And
Absolutely.
if you've got a Reiki practitioner who's really good at what they do, they've done it a long time, sure, you're going to get a little bit longer charge. But for most of us, yeah, that's going to play out pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Like gunk in the pipes,
Yeah.
it's coming
Eric
through.
has a set of, it's actually a mala that he had blessed by a group of um, brain Buddhist monks that had come to a healing center close by here. And they were doing the mandalas, the big
Oh, the big
sand
pretty ones
pictures.
on the ground.
Well, this was on a table, but
Okay.
they were putting the sand out, making the images. It was really beautiful. And please forgive my ignorance. I don't know what you would call him, like the head monk. Bless them for him. And this was probably 8 or 9 years ago. And man, those things still pack a wallop.
Oh, I
When I
bet.
pick them up, they're buzzing. So I think if you live in an ashram and think deep thoughts, and you're never out in the mundane world except to make sand drawings that are holy, and if you're used to channeling divine energy like that, it's going to last longer.
Right, right. You can hope for the best. If not, just go ahead and pop that baby right under the moon again, or
Correct.
get into your prayers, or maybe learn Reiki for yourself. Be empowered and do
Yep.
your own thing. I certainly recharge my magical items on the regular, and that is because I live a regular life.
That being said, if you're not familiar with Reiki, just know that there's always an energy exchange. So don't go
Mhm.
hauling all of your magical stuff to the witch store saying, "Would you recharge these for me?" without giving something in return.
I often thought that's why you have people that kind of lose money from time to time. Like they'll have
Yeah,
spontaneous, dropped a $50 bill, or
you are out of
things like
balance.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because maybe
I'm
they've taken.
I'm very big on energy exchange. And I love doing things for people for free. And that's why I have to pull back, because Eric was always telling me, "Man, you were going to give away the store. You need to knock that shit off." And because I love seeing somebody's face light up when they get a gift, or they come in, they don't have very much money and they really need something. And, uh, they're always like, "Oh my gosh, I'll pay you back. I'll be back in." They never came back.
No.
They're probably the ones losing a $50 bill. But now I'm really big on the energy exchange of, okay, I'm gonna do this for you. I'm gonna give this for you. What comes back in return? Because for people like me, and there's a lot of us that really just want to give and give and give to people, you get pretty played out.
Yeah,
Your
absolutely.
cup gets empty.
I definitely preach that to my students, and I'm like, listen, it doesn't have to be money. It can be food, it can be donations to your favorite charity, whatever.
Pay it
It does
forward.
not. Yeah.
Anything.
So
Just make sure that you're understanding that money is only one form of energy. There are lots of forms of energy that you can give back to somebody with. And you know what? Honest to God, thoughts and prayers are not it.
They are not. You know what I love about your classes? Some of them, you do go through that energy exchange piece, and are very
Mm-hmm.
clear about saying like, make sure that it's something that we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
You may be thinking, oh, they need this thing, but if it wasn't talked about, it may just be a nice thing received, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to a genuine need.
They're like,
But
here, have a
there's
chicken. No,
You're a witch, right? Don't they do chicken things?
you need a whole box of gardening books. No, I just really don't.
Right now the exchange is a burden. Yeah.
I did get
So,
some really good gardening books one time. Though. They were
oh,
good. Yeah,
are they still good now? Is the energy exchange still good?
they are.
Um, so guys, as far as this lunar eclipse is treating us, Katrina, in your experience, with the full moon being alongside the lunar eclipse, is it still an okay time to work with the full moon's energy? I mean, that tends to be still in the realm of introspection. What has
Hold
your
that thought.
experience been? Oh.
Wolf, it wasn't your gardening books. It was books. It was gardening books that someone gave me that I didn't need because I already had your gardening books. You gave me great gardening books.
Clarity
Ask me that
achieved.
again about the lunar eclipse. Sorry, I got distracted because I realized that what I'd said would probably be taken wrong in that context.
Oh,
Tell me again. Ask the lunar eclipse question again.
so it's a full moon and a lunar eclipse.
Yes.
Full moon energy is all about evaluating what you started at the new moon. Is it still the right track? All of those things, and then you
Mm-hmm.
bring in the chaos of the lunar eclipse, full shadow. The freaks come out at night. So is it still? Do you find those energies harmonious? Is there anything that you would do, like full moon wise, in particular, because it's an eclipse? Anything like that?
It's kind of like, okay, we're going to have a party. Okay, now we're going to have a party with jello shots. You know, it's
Enough
still
said.
it's still full moon. It's still amazing. It's still fruition. It's still evaluation. It's still strong goddess energy that's coming up. And I think that we just use that as like a to piggyback onto this crazy pig that we're riding that's the lunar eclipse. You know, it's like jello shots and ostriches at our party now. So we just have to ride it out. Sometimes the crazy actually gives us a new way of looking at things,
Hmm.
a different perspective on what is being revealed and what is coming to fruition. It just adds a new level of perception to us. So we're processing what we're getting on a darker kind of shadow side, as well as, in that frontal lobe excitements phase.
Okay. So it sounds like this is an opportunity to, still work with the energy of the full moon as far as assessment is concerned. Um, Figure out what you want to bury. And in positive ways, guys. We're not just hiding secrets. We're not
You
just
can
like, oh,
hide
nobody's gonna
secrets.
find this one.
That's what I do. Mine, and what I fully meant for that was that I didn't want to keep thinking about the time that, I vomited on the bus in the third grade and it wakes me up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Bury that shit in there. I don't want to think about the time that I was really, really inappropriately mean to a friend of mine who's no
Mm.
longer my friend. And I was just joking, and it wasn't a very funny joke, but it was funnier in my head, and I want that to go away. So I bury it so I can get on with my life and stop thinking about that, because it shouldn't be a life sentence that that something like that happened.
Yeah.
So bless your heart. I love you. I'm totally hiding secrets.
Oh, my stuff fell over. That must be confirmation that I've got stuff to do too. So, Well, hide what you will for your highest and best good.
And do
But
not leave a treasure map to find it.
no, no, not for yourself or anybody else. And I mean, there's a lightning to what Katrina was sharing too about some of those things. They may be secrets, right? But if there's any energy tied to those individuals involved, hopefully they experience some relief as well because they're like, I don't know why I keep having this memory of like this energy cord and uh, this time in third grade, and who knows. But getting an opportunity to usefully use this upcoming moon. Remember, it's November. I was about to say February again. Like, what is it about
We
February?
need to do a reading for you about February because something's coming up for you
Clearly,
in
it's just like
February.
wants to come out now. November 19th. Tapping into those energies, make sure that you I'm not even going to say make sure you don't put out your crystals because it's becoming more and more apparent that this is just like do whatever the hell you want and see what happens. You will either grow or learn or both. So forget the rules, forget them, fuck it. And if you want to put your crystals out and then throw it at somebody for some real chaotic energy later on down the road, have fun and tell us how it went. But introspectively, manifestation wise, there's always going to be timing. That was the beginning of our conversation. Dream big, feel the feelings, do the thing, drown in it,
Mhm.
but you won't die. And at some point it will manifest. You will see some form of fruition. And um I think that the instance where Katrina was guiding us through when gods and goddesses say no, perhaps we'll all get a glimpse of that this eclipse. Is what a great time to bring that stuff up, hold it out, and say, okay, is this a no? Is this a divine no?
Mhm.
And trust that that is for your highest and your best good. And if you have the pattern app, they're definitely encouraging that. If you haven't gotten the
One thing,
notification,
one thing to that point, Dahlia, is we get up into the excitement of manifestation because manifestation magic is productive and it's proactive and we enjoy that level of control, but we enjoy it in a way that we take it for granted and we don't like to be told no. And there are a lot of new age philosophies saying, oh, you can have anything you want if you just put enough energy toward it. And you can, just by law of attraction, if you
mm,
just think the right thoughts and surround yourself with the right people, you can have whatever you want. And that's the secret is that, just be in alignment with what you want. And like Hexaba says, if that was the case, every 12-year-old would have a pony. And it just doesn't always work. Sometimes, and I used to tell my daughter this all the time. My daughter Delina is a Scorpio, and Scorpio with Virgo rising. I think she's got a Cancer
uh,
moon or an Aquarius moon. And I got to look it up. I got 6. It's hard to keep all their 3s in my head. But definitely a Scorpio with Virgo rising to every degree. She has a Scorpio with Virgo rising. And she just was a very determined kid. And I just eventually got to the place I had to tell her, honey, sometimes the answer is just no. Because I'm explaining and explaining why you can't have this or why you can't do this. But blah, blah, blah. And it's like, all of a sudden she's, you know, passed the law exam or the bar exam and is a lawyer and, you know, debating all of this. No, sometimes the answer is just no.
and down the
And
road you get to see why.
right. But we don't want to hear that. We just want what we want when we want it and feel personally attacked if we're not getting it. And sometimes it's just no.
Yeah, especially on the big stuff, the stuff that you're like, man, I invested all of this into
Yes.
this for years, and that's it. Now it's a
You
no.
know, we get all the ingredients together to make a cake. We get the cake in the oven. We really expect a cake is going to come out.
Right, prayed over all the ingredients, set
Right.
intentions, charged them
Right.
under the moon.
Correct. And we look in there and there's just a pan of, you know, sludge or something. It's disappointing. It doesn't make mathematical sense when we do all the right things and that outcome just doesn't happen.
But nothing in the universe really operates that way, does it? I mean, when you look up and you're like, okay, you know, the tree was planted here, the soil was this, and you know,
Mhm.
and then we harvested, we pruned, we X, Y, and Z, and nobody planned for aphids, you know.
Right. Locust. Yet this little green bean seed that we dropped falls into the hedge and suddenly starts to take over the hedge and is
Right,
full of green beans. This is a
right.
metaphor, everybody. But
If you just joined the show, this is not
correct.
about gardening.
Right. But really, I mean it's sad. It's hard. Because yeah, you put all this effort into something, something should come out of it. And that was one of the hardest things I learned about being a website developer and learning to do graphic design is that there are going to be times you work for 17 hours on a website for a client and they're going to say I don't like it.
Oh, that's not the job for
Yeah.
me. Oh my god.
Oh man. Or you Photoshop for, 6 hours on this one banner and it just never works. The concept should have worked and it just doesn't work. You're going to have wasted effort. That is going to happen. And what I tend to believes that happens is that all that energy, you can't create or destroy energy. It just becomes something else. So that energy is going somewhere. And I believe it just defaults to our greatest good. And that's why ultimately everything happens for us.
You brought me into remembering there are occasions, I would say most of the time, I have to actively remind myself that if I'm going to do something, it has to be because I want to do it, not because I'm expecting a result. You know, be ready
Oh,
for
that's
the
good.
no. You know, be ready for any possibility. But there's something about this that I want to do. There's something about this I want to say. And no matter the outcome, I went into it with knowing that I didn't push an agenda. And I think this is a great time for that, guys. As far as the conversation is going, you know, like Katrina said, you're going to put all these ingredients out there, but do it because you want to, not because, you know, you saw an internet meme that was like, this is the time, it's going to happen for you.
Hmm.
No, do it because you wanted to.
Yeah. And I think that that's really a lot of what life is about. They say it's not the destination, it's the journey. What did you see when you got there? And John Lennon's the one that said life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. So pay
Yeah.
attention to what's happening in your life, engage with that, and be along for the journey, not just trying to get to an outcome.
That's the whole Alchemist if you've never read it. That's that the audience if you've never read it. That's the whole book, and it's hard read. Recommended on
Oh,
Audible.
oh gosh, that was a good idea. I didn't get through it, honestly.
It's the only way I did. Audible will you do the one trial and use it for that book.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
But you know, at the end, at this stage of our broadcast and summarizing everything that we've said, do what feels good to do. Um, sometimes it's not about what's right or and certainly don't go out and harm anybody. You know, oh, this feels good. I want to hurt you. No, that's not what we're talking about. Do things that feel good internally on in the heart. Follow that sort of guidance, but don't expect the pat on the head or the pat on the back from the universe, the gods, the goddesses, whoever you subscribe to say you did a good job and that's why we're going to reward you. That's not how life should be lived. And perhaps during this November 19th, you know, see what's going on, reevaluate, and then rest because it's going to be nuts. You might feel nuts. And realize that this is the raising of your vibration. Your vibration is probably higher than you think. And so there is no need to try and achieve something different as you see it in another person's life, but simply just check in with yourself. Are you higher than you were yesterday, or the week before? And if you're not, what do you need to do to change it? So that's what we have for you guys. As far as a discussion tonight, you guys have been awesome. These comments have been live and wonderful. Even if we
Mhm.
haven't mentioned them, we've seen them, and we love you guys for participating. Absolutely.
Something I want to bring up real quick, Dahlia, that Wolf
Yeah.
just mentioned regarding that journey idea. Wolf, my friend Wolf,
Oh
periodically
yes.
does this thing where he purges everything he owns that he doesn't actually need or adore. And does it spark joy? No, it's going out on the patio. And he last week did his annual giveaway, and people came to pick up the things that they wanted. And I had invited a number of my students to participate in this, and a lot of them were young people that were in their early 20s, late 20s, and they were just so delighted in the things that they picked up. I got this rock, and they're coming back to show me, I got this mug, I got this. And no, but you have given stuff away, Wolf, every year I've known you, even if it wasn't like public. Uh, so we used to do this with our group as well, where every Lammas, we would, which is the first of the harvest, we would have tables and tables of giveaway items. Wolf would bring some, we would bring some. And that was symbolic of them going into their fields and having the first of their harvest, is finding something in all of that that they loved or that was calling them or that they
Oh
wanted.
wow.
I've been a huge proponent of that. And I've never seen a human more excited to see somebody love to walk off with something of his that they enjoy. And he got that in spades this year, because we had so many of our students that don't have a lot of money. They're young people, they're trying to be out on their own, they're struggling, and here's a way that they can set up their altar, or they can enhance their sacred space or their practice. So Wolf, you did good, kid. They absolutely loved it, and he is very much there for the journey, and I've always admired that about him.
Oh, wonderful. And right, circling right back around to burying things. It maybe it's not a literal burial or a meditation, but a funeral for what you're giving away, and releasing, and not seeing it ever again. So the God, that takes a level of detachment that I can
Mhm.
only dream to have. Uh, if you've seen my crystal skull collection, you know I have attachment issues. As I often get questions, is that for sale? No, and never will be. Well, don't they walk away from you? Not them. Sorry.
We have signs in our shop on different things that say, "I'm not for sale, I live here."
Great. I need to start laminating some stuff like that. But as far as our audience, I hope we hope that you have a great week. We look forward to seeing you next week after the 19th, the aftermath, and then we'll be
Yes.
rolling right into the Thanksgiving season. I don't really celebrate that, but other people do, and collectively we'll be sharing some sort of energy around that, I'm sure, where you're getting back with family, or you're having to deal with family drama or whatever. Remember, say it, sage, protect, white vinegar your walls and floors when they leave or before they
Yeah.
get there.
I'm getting to meet a new family member this Thanksgiving.
Oh, cool.
I'm so excited for that. My
A little
son
one, a big
Dylan,
one.
a big one.
Okay.
Hopefully it'll lead to a little one. My
Oh,
my son's partner Liv is coming over from the UK because they just opened the boundary the
oh yes, that's
borders.
right.
So Liv is coming over next week, and we'll get to meet them and have them as part of our family. So it's really exciting. This is a lot of things are going on in our family right now that are really you can feel everything moving forward. It's a very generative time. So I'm pretty excited for that. And Liv is a witch. Of course,
Yeah.
my boy went out and found himself a witch, a British witch. So this doesn't get any better.
Right. That's got to be a lot of fun. Well, I look forward to hearing that week. So that'll be 2 weeks from now. We'll get
I
to
should
some
have
color on that.
met them by the time we have our next appointment.
Oh yeah. Okay. Awesome.
So I'll
Things to
tell
talk
you.
about. Well, everyone, have a great evening, and we will see you next time.
See
Bye,
you next
everybody.
time. Thanks, everybody.